All right, let's talk some college football here. Week 11, round 2, in fact, another 5 games that we're going to go ahead and break down for you here on the College Football Kickoff Show. And we're going to do it. Special treat for you. The A-plus team here on a Friday. Look at this motley crew they put together. My goodness, Jesse, don't call me Dion Schule in the house, while Bryan Leonard back in the saddle again. And, of course, the one and only TC, Teddy, covers, ready to roll. Help you guys navigate through this crazy Week 11 schedule here. We're going to talk some Alabama, LSU, of course, a little bit later in a roundtable, as well as kind of a head-scratcher with Oklahoma and Missouri to see what these guys think. But more importantly, it's all about you guys and any questions you have for those that are joining us live here on this Friday. Drop your questions in the chat room. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. And let's dive in, because there is no better place to start with Jesse Schule than the one and only Colorado, taking on Texas Tech here in a matchup of, some people think, oh boy, you're asking a lot here for Colorado to go on the road here and handle business against Texas Tech. I don't know. Is it an over? Are you trusting Colorado here out of a bye? What do you do here, Jess?
Well, look at me, Joe. I'm on the bandwagon now. Woo! But yeah, I'm not the most popular guy amongst Colorado fans. I'm on record saying that Colorado's the most overrated team in the country. I'm on record saying they can't protect their quarterback. They can't run the ball. They're one-dimensional, a whole lot of other things. And, they've made me eat my words in recent weeks. And I'm not one to jump on a bandwagon or change my mind very easily. But this does look like a pretty appetizing matchup for Colorado. It actually, and situationally, forget about the matchup, just situationally, Colorado coming off of a bye, Texas Tech coming off an upset win at Iowa State as a double-digit dog. And the stat daddy himself was kind enough to hit me up in Slack with some trends for that. He's informed me that since 2019, teams coming off of an upset win as a double-digit dog in their next game are 43-68, 38% against the spread. That does not bode well for Texas Tech. But yeah, you start to look at the matchup. Texas Tech, they ranked dead last in the Big 12 against the pass. They ranked dead last in the Big 12 in sacks. Colorado, they ranked first in the Big 12 in sacks. So that sack problem they had last year when their quarterback was getting sacked every week, it started off, it was a problem early on in the season. Shadur has only been sacked twice in the last 2 games. And as far as can't run the football, they ran for 123 yards on 40 carries against Cincinnati. And, that's, 123 yards on 40 carries. When you do the math, that's not that impressive. But for a team that I was calling one-dimensional, I'm impressed that they bothered to run the ball 40 times. And establishing some sort of run is a step in the right direction. 148 yards on 39 carries against Arizona. Yeah, I mean, everything's trending toward Colorado. Situationally better, better quarterback. I don't like Texas Tech here. I like Colorado. Consider me a bandwagon fan these days.
God damn, what a difference a couple of weeks ago. Talking about an about face here, Teddy. God damn, Jesse, all over the Colorado bandwagon. Look, he gets one jersey, and that's the end of it. All right, back in Colorado in this one. Bryan Leonard back in the saddle again here. And, Brian, interesting game here, the old holy war with BYU and Utah. BYU undefeated, people thinking maybe they're going to be the Big 12 champ. It has not gone well for Utah, but they didn't have Cam Rising, and they didn't have a whole lot else go their way. But boy, both these teams with a little, Kyle Whittingham with a little rest feels good at home, or should it be? Do you trust Utah to win this game outright as a home dog?
Yeah, it's a major rivalry game for the state of Utah here. Two programs that just don't get along. When they played in the Mountain West, when we had the tournament here in Vegas, I always went to the basketball tournament, and they hate each other. They don't even have to be playing each other in the game, and they're downgrading each other in the stands, just screaming at each other. So it should be especially chippy here as the Utes have come in, having dropped 4 straight games after starting the season with 4 victories. So you got to think this is the Super Bowl for Utah here. I mean, they're playing at home against their big rival here, and they have not played well. So you know what kind of effort you're going to get out of Utah. This is actually the first ranked team Utah has faced all year, and they take on 2 more ranked opponents after this contest. So while the defense is averaging just 16.5 points per game on the season, they've been great. The offense has not done a thing all year. You've only scored over 23 points against the likes of Southern Utah and Utah State. This offense is not good, and this could be a long offensive day for the Utes unless they've got some surprises in their pockets for this game here against a team that knows them very well. BYU undefeated on the season, something that we're surprised to say at this point of the year, especially considering they just joined this league a couple of years ago. They've done a remarkable job, one of the biggest surprises in college football this year. And they've already beaten 2 ranked teams this season. They played SMU and Kansas State, winning those games by 56-24 margin. So they played well when they stepped up in class. They played well against the lower division teams. And I think this is a team with a really solid passing game on both sides of the ball. I use quarterback rating with that. And they've got a 147.68 quarterback rating themselves while allowing 96.1 quarterback rating. That's one of the best in the country, an outstanding number. In fact, take a look at the Cougars. They've only permitted 8 passing touchdowns on the year while intercepting 14 passes. They're playing against this Utah team that has trouble moving the football. You know, anything can happen in these big rivalry games, especially, as I mentioned, that Utah will be playing this as if it's their Super Bowl. But how do you go against BYU? They have done everything they have been put in front of them all season long. They know the rivalry. They've had success. So let's take BYU here. I love the Utah coaching staff, but they just don't have anything on offense here. But BYU's the better team. I think 3 is a little bit short, so give me BYU in this one.
Looking at BYU in this one, I mean, they can only win the games that are on the schedule, right, Brian? What the hell else do you want BYU to do? Let me ask you, it looks like 5 is an opening number. I'm seeing 3s now, so there's certainly a little bit of love for Utah in the marketplace. But what about this total? I'm trying to how in the hell are we getting to 41 points here, Brian? That's the hardest part I'm coming up with these offenses.
Yeah, that's the thing here is I think BYU could score. The Utah, I don't think. Utah under points may be a way to go, team total under. That's usually what I do. If I like the favorite in a game and I think it's going to be low scoring, I look for the underdog team total points under. That may be something I take a look at, especially if it's around key numbers. And so if we find something around a key number and we get the better side of it, that makes a lot of sense to me.
All right. Should be a good one there. A lot of eyes are going to be out there, especially for Big 12 fans. Will BYU keep rolling, or will Utah try to get a little bit closer to being bowl eligible here? Teddy Covers in the house, ready to roll, Teddy. And I love this game. I just don't know what the hell to make of it. I mean, Nevada's already played 10 games. I don't think they've won a Mountain West game yet. But what are we doing against Boise State? This feels like a ton of points here, Teddy. Is it?
Yeah, the point spread's the great equalizer.
Right.
Obviously, with Boise State minus 24, total of 61 against Nevada on Saturday. Of course, looking at the free WagerTalk live odds screen. And does Boise merit being this type of favorite? Absolutely, they do. Because, as you mentioned, Nevada winless in Mountain West play. They're 3-7 on the season. This team isn't going anywhere. So a lot of bettors, you have that thought process. Oh, I want the dog. You try to make case for a dog. This isn't one of those games, all right? Nevada, they've lost 3 straight. As you mentioned, they've already played 10 games this year. This is not a fresh team at this stage of the season. 3 losses in a row for the Wolfpack, winless in conference play. And the way they're losing defensively, this squad is real dicey. They lost 38-21 to Colorado State. At home last week. We're not talking about a team that's coming in with confidence. We're not talking about a team that's fresh. Boise's real, all right? Boise has reason to run up margins. And it doesn't matter if they're not trying to run up margins. Boise is a guy you hand the ball off to, and he can make big plays in Hanson Shinty. But we haven't talked enough about Maddox Madsen. And obviously, when you have an elite running game, well, things can get pretty easy for the quarterback. Madsen's only thrown 2 interceptions all season long. And if Boise doesn't turn the ball over, they're going to score. They're going to score again and again in this ball game. So I have no reason to step in front of the Broncos. The Broncos are a team that has an interest in running up margins. They're playing for a spot in the college football playoff, which something hasn't happened to that program since what? They beat Oklahoma more than 15 years ago. So, yes, there's pressure on the Broncos. This team can handle the pressure, and Nevada's not a team that I think is going to put up a brutal fight. If I'm playing, I'm laying. Broncos are past for this better.
God damn. Was that the old Statue of Liberty play in that OU game?
That was.
Was it? Who the hell was the quarterback of Boise State? Didn't he go on to be a coach or I'm going to have to look that up.
Is that Kellen Moore?
Was it Kellen?
I'm going to look it up.
It was Kellen Moore, right? Was it Kellen Moore?
Might be. Yeah, I'll look it up.
What a unbelievable one that was. That was the old Stoops.
It was
thing.
awful. I had Oklahoma minus the points and was this close to cashing. And, everyone was on Boise. So I didn't enjoy that Statue of Liberty at all. Or the overtime, I think.
No.
I still remember.
I will never forget the look on Stoops' face. And OU wanted to be anywhere but there because they had just lost. And they were out of it. And they're like, we don't want to be in this bowl game. We don't want to be here at all. And Boise State killed it. But I do think you're right. Kellen Moore is a great call on that one. Boise State taking on Nevada. Don't expect a whole lot.
It's not right, though.
Oh, who was it?
Jared Zabransky.
What?
Remember him?
Jared Sabrieli.
Yep.
For Boise? Wow.
That's what it's saying. He was named the Fiesta Bowl's offensive most MVP in the 2007. Yeah, you remember that guy.
Yeah, because he absolutely killed it. Yeah, he absolutely killed it. He was perfect for Boise State. Well, there you go here, guys. Now you got you're fully caught up in all the Boise State history. And Bob Stoops probably still has nightmares about that game. All right, so we got 3 games in a book. We got 2 games that we're going to go roundtable here, plus any games that you guys have questions on here in this Week 11 slate. Shout out to those of you guys joining us live here today. Daryl Turner in the house. Ride Cape in the house as well. Roger Long hanging out with us too in the chat room. Big shout out to you guys. Drop it in there if you're joining us live. Any of the games that you want some questions answered about. And if you're joining us on the replay, comment section, drop them in there. We're going to be getting back to you guys right up to kickoff on Saturday. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already, as we are going to head to what is an absolute disaster known as the SEC, where everybody seems to have at least 1 or 2 losses. And Week 11, should we call it an elimination game? Because it certainly feels like a playoff elimination game, as Alabama heading to LSU at night. And Bama, well, they're laying points here. It was 3, maybe 2.5 right now. Jesse, here's my problem with this game. You're telling me with this line that Bama on a neutral site is what, 5-6 points better than LSU? I don't see a lot separating these teams unless I'm missing something. Do we really want to go against LSU at home at night getting points? Is that something we want to do?
Well, that's the narrative, Joe. Death Valley at night, LSU 65-6 at home in night games since 2000. But I'm looking at some other stats. Brian Kelly, 1-3 straight up against Alabama and 4-13 straight up against top 10 teams since 2010. I think as far as the coaching advantage here, I give a distinct advantage to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. As far as quarterback, I like Jalen Milroe and his ability to run the ball. I think Alabama's got more talented players. I understand the advantage of Death Valley at night, but I think that a short line like this, they might be overrating it a little bit. You look at the injury report, and you always got to be cautious with the injury report. But I believe a lot of the guys for LSU that are listed as injured are actually out, not just questionable or game time decision, but actually out of the lineup. So their depth will take a hit. I like Alabama to get this one done. I know after they lost to Vanderbilt, there was a lot of panic and everybody was saying, what's wrong with Alabama? Well, guess what? Vanderbilt's actually pretty good. So, I mean, no bad losses for Alabama. LSU, I don't think it's a great spot for them. I'd lean Alabama here.
We got Bama, root for Bama there. And those that, again, unfortunately, we got parity here. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, Brian Leonard in the SEC, but there isn't really the upper echelon and then everyone else. Everyone seems to be all lumped in here in the SEC, which means over the next couple of weeks, there are going to be some good teams that are going to be on the outside looking in, and this is certainly going to be one of them. So what gives? One of these teams has to win, I think. Which one is it?
I don't even think if Alabama loses this game, that's going to have any effect on them. They've had so much goodwill with the, they've got to really have a bad season. Georgia and Alabama to not make the Final 12, but you take a look at Alabama and against ranked opponents, the Tide has been outscored by a combined margin of 98-94 this season. They played 3 games, the only victory coming in that terrific Georgia contest. And while Alabama's running game has been solid as always, they average just short of 5 yards per carry. I really like this passing game as the season has gone on. Quarterback rating of 160.22 for their offense, and the defense defends the pass very well too. 109.76 quarterback rating defensively. Both teams are off of a bye, but LSU has had 2 weeks to stew over that 38-23 loss at A&M. That broke a 6-game winning streak for the Tigers, and I do have concerns about the LSU defense against a mobile quarterback. They struggled in the past in that regard. They're allowing 3.93 yards per carry, so I think Alabama should be able to run the ball on them. They've only picked off 4 passes all season. This vaunted LSU defense, 4 pass interceptions all season long. You would open this up by asking if the 3 was a good number. I made it 5. So I like Alabama here. I've always been a big proponent of LSU in night home games. They don't play enough of them. It's going to be a chaotic game. But Alabama, this Alabama team and the Alabama program has been in these places many times in the past. Obviously, different head coach. But I think they're the better all-around team here. And I hate to say it because I've never been an Alabama fan unless I've got my money on them because they've been good to bettors over the years. But I don't think LSU is quite there yet. I like Alabama in this game minus the 3.
So we've got LSU coming out, a little extra time to prepare for this one, Teddy. And I think it's kind of in a similar situation back when they played Ole Miss. I think, in fact, we talked about that game here on the show. And we thought LSU's defense might be getting a little bit better. It's still LSU at night. We've got 2 guys here thinking Alabama's the better team. Are you on the same page with them?
I am not. Plain.
Thank God.
I'm going to
Thank you
start
for your time, Teddy.
I'm going to start my analysis talking about the guy who's not here anymore, Nick Saban. Why did Saban walk away at the end of last year?
Yeah.
As opposed to at the end of this year, as opposed to the year before? The elite coaches tend to walk away when they think that their team the coming up year is not national championship worthy. And I agree with that. Alabama is not. And for a team that's used to competing for national titles, this year's team does not appear to be as good. So you had a head coach say, I don't think this team can win. A legendary head coach essentially saying, I don't think this team can win the title this year before the season started. Then we look at what's happened during the season for Alabama. All right. They beat Georgia. We all remember that game. Jumped out to a huge lead, blew the entire lead, lucky to find a way to win the game. That's it for the season when you talk about quality wins for Alabama, a game where they blew a huge lead and were lucky to win. Missouri, they got without a quarterback. They were lucky to beat South Carolina, 21-point favorites, won that game by 2. Look at them on the road. They lose outright as chalk at Tennessee. They lose outright as Big Chalk at Vandy. And the win at Wisconsin, I'm sorry, Wisconsin's no good this year. And we've seen that 5 different times. We'll see it again before the year is through. So they haven't done anything on the highway that makes me excited about them. The coach walked away that says, the team's down a little bit this year. And I don't think they're that, yes, Alabama's still an elite team. But are they at the top level where they've been? They're not. We talk about Kalen DeBoer, who was a coach we all respect, admire. We like him with Alexander Pear, etc. This is a very new situation for DeBoer. It's the first time he's ever in his coaching career been under any criticism, had pressure, all that kind of stuff when you're talking about dealing with Alabama and the fan base there. And in this instance, not that DeBoer is an infinite amount of time, but he's got a year or two to get his systems in place. This is a game he can afford to lose. LSU can't. And Brian Kelly, to say that DeBoer is a better coach than Brian Kelly, I disagree, and I disagree strongly. Brian Kelly has his teams prepared year in, year out, game in, game out. We like him as a dog, and we think LSU can hang on Saturday night. I'll take the points with the Tigers.
Taking the points there. All right, 2 Alabama, 1 LSU. Should be one hell of a game there in the SEC. We do have another game also that is a interesting line when it came out, because it showed that, well, there were some question marks with the quarterback from Missouri, and Oklahoma was actually laying points when this game came out. Had a lot of people scratching their head. And guess what? I believe they're still laying points. 2.5, in fact, is what we're seeing here. 41.5 now as the total. All right, I'll ask you, backup quarterback or no backup quarterback, Jesse Schule, should OU be laying points on the road against this Missouri team? Do you agree with that, or is it a home dog spot for you?
I think this is a stay away spot for me.
Yes.
With all the games on the board this week and all the injuries in this game. I wouldn't bet on this game with Lawrence Pressman's money. My only commentary about this game is you look at the injury reports for both these teams, and I'll point out that the SEC recently announced that they're going to start punishing teams for faking injuries during the game to get the delay of the game and get that timeout. And because of that, they've also announced that if those players have a prior injury designation and they go down after a play is over and delay the game, they won't be penalized. So they're creating incentive for SEC teams to have this enormous injury list. You put a bunch of players as questionable, and that will allow you that after every play, you can have an offensive lineman fall on the ground like he got hit by a truck and delay the game for a minute and a half. So that may be why we're seeing extensive injury reports for some of these SEC teams, which makes it very difficult to handicap. And with two teams that are just both in a bad way, I like I said, I'm not betting on it with Lawrence Pressman's money.
Oh, God. And nothing ventured, nothing gained. Well, you'd look good in a Missouri jersey, too. I'll just say that, Jesse. How about you, Brian Leonard? It feels like a dog or pass spot unless you are that high on OU being able to go on the road and get the... Hasn't worked out that great for Missouri this year. I mean, they had a lot of high expectations, but injuries and other things have derailed them here. But is this a spot you can get behind them, even with a backup?
Yeah, this is a tough game, obviously, because of the injuries. The Sooners not only have taken a step back this year, they really struggled when they've stepped up in class. Against 3 ranked teams this year, they've been outscored by a combined 85-42. And while Missouri is ranked in a couple of polls, they'll be playing shorthanded here. After this game, the Sooners finished the year versus Alabama and LSU, so a bowl invitation isn't guaranteed for Oklahoma. The Oklahoma defense defends the run well at 2.89 yards per carry, but they only produced 3.67 yards per carry themselves, and it's been a long time since we've seen an Oklahoma team who really didn't run the ball well. Tigers enter off an embarrassing 34-0 shutout at Alabama 2 weeks ago. The 2 losses on the season were to the Tide and Texas A&M, 2 pretty good teams, but Missouri's been a really good bully this year. They've got wins over Murray State by 51, Buffalo by 38, UMass by 42, and they'll likely be without Brady Cook here as their center. Drew Pine, a big drop-off there in starting quarterback. That is a sizable drop-off. I think points are going to be at a premium in this one. The total's low for a reason. I don't like either one of these offenses here. I think this is going to be one of those battles that are be very low scoring. Just a lane because the lines maker knows that, and the number is very low. But I can't see how either one of these teams puts a lot of points on the board.
A coin flip game in your mind, Teddy, or is the total maybe the way to look here? How much confidence could you possibly have in these offenses at these points?
Well, we're coming in with incomplete information right now because I don't know if Brady Cook's going to play. You're not going to tell anyone to make a bet on a game if you don't know if the quarterback's in or out. And Brian said it. He couldn't be more right on this point. Brady Cook bet on all the way. Drew Pine, his backup, pretty awful. And if you watch the Auburn game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And literally, the offense could not move with the backup QB and marched up and down the field with the starting. So until we know the status of Missouri's starting quarterback, there ain't no bet to be made. There isn't. Obviously, Oklahoma's offense hasn't worked all year, and then we talk about the cluster injuries. They've had cluster injuries at the two most important positions on offense in this conference, on the offensive line and in the receiving core. And that's two areas where you don't want cluster injuries. That said, looks like a couple of the receivers who've been hurt have been upgraded to probable. And that's enough to make me think that Oklahoma deserves to be favored here. They've taken the money because of the Cook injury and the underseen money. So this line's already been bet into as much as enough for me not to get involved at the current numbers. But it's not a game where I'm expecting a whole bunch of points. And it's a game where if Missouri's quarterback doesn't play, they're probably worthy of a fade.
All right, there you go. Keep an eye on that injury report, though, guys, is OU currently a fade. And listen, if Cook goes and you're holding 2.5, you probably feel really good about that ticket that you're holding right now. If he doesn't, boy, oh boy, kind of wish you went in another direction. I'll say this, though, in the chat room, we got a bunch of questions. There are some decent games tonight, and one of the ones that keeps getting brought up here is UCLA at home taking on Iowa, and it's amazing the 50-50 split that I'm seeing here. And Teddy, I'll come back to you because it's either the Iowa backers by 1 million or it's the UCLA guys saying they've been undervalued all year. The number did come down, I believe, from the open, so there was a little bit of UCLA love in the market. What do you do with this game at UCLA? Has won back-to-back road games, and now they're home here.
Yeah, I mean, UCLA is number 14 in the country in rush defense. They've allowed 3.3 yards per rush. That's right between Ohio State and Georgia, just to put that in perspective. They're 5-1 against the spread their last 6, all as an underdog. The last 2 outright upset wins at Rutgers before the bye, and then at Nebraska after the bye. Of course, it's the first 2 games all year where they've scored more than 17 points. Rutgers was riddled with injuries. Nebraska's always fragile. And I don't see UCLA scoring more than 17 points here. I do not trust Ethan Gabers against the Hawkeyes defense that, is capable of putting points on the board every week themselves. Now, Iowa goes with Caleb Johnson. When Caleb Johnson's running the football effectively, the Hawkeyes are pretty tough to stop, which is not something I've been able to say at any point over the last 2 decades. But when Caleb Johnson has room to run, the passing game works for the Hawkeyes. Don't know that he's going to have a ton of room to run here against that Bruins defense that has been very, very good. That being said, it is something of a step up in class for UCLA defensively. The lean here for me is Iowa and under. I did not pull the trigger on either one.
Did not pull the trigger on either of those games, but we'll see. I think it should be good. Iowa has been an over machine. I'm still having a hard time figuring out how the hell we're getting 45 points in this game. Although Iowa has been a monster over machine this year. Amazing what happens when you get rid of the nepotism in the university. Shocker there. And now they have an offense that can actually score points. I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to do that enough here tonight to get this thing up and over. Jesse, we got some questions coming in from Instagram. What is it? Aaliyah the girl is asking about a Big 12 battle between Iowa State and KU. And they want to know whether or not we think the over is not a bad play in here. It does feel like KU is a trendy dog this week. Looks like a lot of people have been jumping on them, getting 3 at home against Iowa State. There is no doubt they are a better team than what their record says they are, but Iowa State and Matt Campbell coming off just a terrible loss last week. So what do you do in this case here? Are you a believer in the home dog?
No, I have to believe that Iowa State's going to come back, and pretty shocking that they lost that game to Texas Tech. But I mean, all's not lost with that one loss. I mean, they can still come back and be a factor in the Big 12. Kansas, we've been waiting you hit the nail on the head when you said they're better than their record indicates, but they continue to find a way to lose. I think Iowa State's defense will cause problems for the quarterback for Kansas. What's the deal with Jalen Daniels anyways? Anyways.
Yeah.
What
happened to his offensive coordinator left? Yeah, his offensive coordinator went to Penn State, and then that was the end of his success apparently, because he's underperformed all year. But man, are there a lot of people that think this is a right spot to back them against Iowa State, possibly losing back-to-back games. Any feeling on the total? 51 does feel like points might be coming here.
51 looks about right to me. I don't have a strong opinion either way for the total.
All right. We've got Bryan Leonard. Another interesting game being floated in the chat room has to do with Navy in South Florida. Boy, what the hell happened to Navy? Oh, that's right. They came back down to life. That's right. Reality hit in after that ass whooping from Notre Dame. It hasn't gone very well for them. Taking on a South Florida team, I think is 1 win away from bowl eligibility here. I believe Brown, they're hoping the quarterback will be back for this game, but I got to tell you, the kid that stepped in wasn't that bad. South Florida, home dog. This is another one of these home dogs that a lot of people seem to be gravitating towards.
Seems to be here. I was one that was believing in Navy when they played Notre Dame, and boy, they wasn't very competitive at all. And then last week, the game at Rice, when Rice changes the coach in midweek there, and they only scored 10 points against Rice. That is a concern here. When you look over the Navy schedule, they played a lot of weaker teams. You've had Charlotte here, Air Force, UAB. So they've had some teams here on their schedule that, in retrospect, maybe we gave them a little bit too much credit than what they deserve. They still run the ball well, 5.6 yards per carry, but they're giving up 4.5 themselves. So they can be run upon. South Florida is one of those teams that is sometimes this year looked pretty good. Other times they look terrible. Going to Tulane, losing 45-10 does not look good. Only scoring 3 points against this Memphis defense. That does not look good. I don't want to bet on either one of these teams. I don't think either one is as good as what the reputations are. So I'm going to be sitting this one out. I just don't have enough for you.
Teddy, interesting one coming in here, and I'm looking at it. I didn't even consider it, but there seems to be a whole lot of love for Cincinnati this week, and there seem to be a few guys in the chat room that think maybe West Virginia is live here. I don't know about West Virginia on the road. I do think points are probably coming. I wouldn't hate a look at the over here, but West Virginia as a live road underdog here, is that something that you would consider? Yeah,
I probably want the Mountaineers before I wanted the Bearcats in this game. It's a scenario where, look, West Virginia, from a schedule standpoint, they played a bunch of elite teams. They had Penn State, Kansas State, Iowa State. And no, they haven't fared well. The rest of their games, and particularly last week, or the last game, they're coming off a bye here. Last game at Arizona, where you have a team that's kind of underachieved. Now they're stepping down in class a little bit, and boom, you have the straight up win. And those type of wins going into a bye for a team that still needs, that's still playing for something. In my mind, you come out of the bye and you would look towards the Mountaineers. Cincy, defensively, they've been good. Offensively, I don't trust this team to score against anybody right now. So the lean is West Virginia plus the points.
Yeah, it's not actually, right, Cape. It's not a bad look at all in that one. I did see somebody on TikTok offering up, Jesse, that Oklahoma State at getting 10.5, 11, and it took all I could not to just type back to them, don't you dare just give me your money. But they are getting 11 right now, and TCU's got all sorts of injuries on the defensive side. Oklahoma State and Gundy back in, telling all the fans that they can, that we're ripping them last week after the loss to Arizona State. You and I have talked about them. This is a team heading in the wrong direction. On the road, are we supposed to believe that they're going to get enough stops against this TCU offense? Or maybe just an over? I mean, look at that number. Just it's 68.
Let's go back a few weeks ago when they were on the road at BYU undefeated. BYU was a massive favorite. Oklahoma State comes into that game on the road. They ran the ball down the Cougars' throats. They were leading with seconds to go in the game, and they lose in heartbreaking fashion. I think that was the dagger for Gundy and his team this season. Although they did show a lot of heart. They as a big road underdog, an excellent effort. But do I want to count on that this week? I don't think so. This is another game where there's just better games on the board. I wouldn't take TCU either. I mean, I never want to be betting against Gundy laying double digits, and you piss the guy off. You get him all upset. You question his integrity. He's likely to rally the troops and show you a good effort. But there's obviously some serious problems in that Oklahoma State program. And I said it on this show before, his preseason presser, right before the season started, he said, it's time for the players to stop talking about money because we're getting ready to play football. And I thought that was a very odd thing to say in your presser right before the season starts. But and that might be part of the problem here.
I love it. We got just a couple of more here, and I'll ask both of you guys. And Teddy, I'll start with you because it was brought up a couple times in the chat room. Since this is the first season with the realignment, we got a lot of teams from the West having to have traveled all the way to the East to travel all the way back to the West. And I believe it was brought up where UCLA might just travel the most miles of any football team this year. But you got another situation, right, where you got Washington now has got to leave. They just a win at home. Now they've got to fly back east, too. How have you taken or adjusted it all this year when it comes to these unusual travel schedules for these teams that aren't used to doing that?
Well, one would expect that as the season progresses, the travel scenarios are going to get worse and the bad spots are going to get worse for tired teams who are banged up and forced to, go across the country to face some quality foes. And that may well be the case for the Washington Huskies this week. I mean, Washington's played some pretty bad football on the road this season. The Rutgers game where they literally gave it away. The Iowa game where they literally didn't show up. Well, they just turned the ball over. And then against Indiana, another bad road loss in a game where the Huskies were supposed to be competitive. So Washington's not a team I trust back east. They've proven to me that when they leave the friendly confines, they're a difficult team to get involved with. Not that I'm going to lay it with Penn State. Don't love the spot for the Nittany Lions here, although it is whiteout in Happy Valley, and that's worth something to the point spread, just like it is for LSU. But one would expect the cumulative effect of travel to have an impact in November, and Washington's road struggles already make this a very much a one-way game.
It's night and day compared to what they've been on the West, compared to what they've been on the East side here. And they always find ways to shoot themselves in the foot there. Great comment in the chat by Jesse Schule, too. Yeah, the kicker is just absolutely unreal. Bryan Leonard, let me ask you here, because it's been brought up a couple of times, and I break out in hives every time I think of the Miami-Georgia Tech game last year and how much money it cost me watching good old you-know-who there not kneeling and opting to hand the ball off and then fumbling it to give Georgia Tech an opportunity and Haynes King an opportunity to beat them. And boy, oh boy, did they beat them. So they've got Haynes King and Georgia Tech again, double digits this time. I am seeing a trend with Miami. They don't like to play in the first half for some reason, Brian. They're much more comfortable having to come from behind here, which is not good for the heart rate. But what do you think here? Georgia Tech at home, they are hoping Haynes King is going to go. Miami late, Georgia Tech early. How do you approach it?
Yeah, it's always funny when you see teams that do that. Are they just badly prepared all week long?
Right.
And all of a sudden, the 15 minutes in the locker room, they discovered, diamonds or something. I don't understand that. But it happens all the time. You see certain teams, I don't know if they're just feeling a little bit more comfortable as the game goes along. From an offensive standpoint, there's only one team in this game that could score, and that's Miami. They're a team that scored on everybody they played all season long. Georgia Tech's hung in pretty good against some pretty good teams this year, but you've got to have offense to compete against Miami. I don't think Georgia Tech has it. Line open 12, now it's down to 11 just about everywhere. So a little bit of money's come in on Georgia Tech. It doesn't take much to move the line from 12 to 11 in a week, but I prefer the Miami side here. They've got the better talent. I'd much more trust them in this situation. And as you mentioned, some past history between the teams. I like Miami here.
Yeah, I certainly like Miami's point total to go over because, they dropped 50 at the drop of a hat here. So if that team totals anything under 50, I think we're good to go. Don't trust that Georgia Tech defense to stop anybody. All right, finally, before we go around the horn and hear what you guys have locked and loaded, Teddy, it's customary. Everyone wants to know how bad is Michigan this week. So they want to know whether or not. I mean, at what point do you stop going, oh, I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off Indiana? Because they're not falling off, Teddy, at any time soon. But they still got to win by 2 touchdowns against Michigan. They should do that, right?
Let me talk about how I would approach a team like Indiana right now.
Right.
All right. Because this is something that I think is every bit as important as any advice I can give you for this game. When you have one of the surprise teams in college football and all they do is make money for their backers, all September, win games, cover point spreads, all October, win games and cover point spreads. By the time you get to November, when that team sitting like Indiana is with a huge betting bandwagon and legitimate respect from the betting markets, if you've been riding them, you keep riding them. That's fine. If you haven't, now's not the time to jump on. All right. Talk about the Hoosiers down the stretch. Where are they going to go? 2-2 ATS, 1-3 ATS. This is not a team that's going to win and cover every point spread all year long. That's just not how it works, especially when you're talking about November games where everything's been factored in. Indiana's successful season has been factored in. That being said, I'm not taking Michigan plus the points this week. No chance. Indiana can kill them. And it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if the Hoosiers did. We had it, I think it was Jesse talked about it earlier in the show, saying when a team gets a chance, maybe it was Brian, I don't remember, but one of my colleagues said earlier, when a team gets a chance to beat a team that's on them, they're going to kick them while they're down. And if Indiana, has a chance to beat Michigan, Wolverines have been pretty good against the Hoosiers for many, many decades. I don't see Indiana laying up. So not a game I'm going to get involved with. I do not want the Wolverines plus the points. And Indiana's, your time to ride Indiana has come and gone from a value perspective.
Yeah, wait until a couple of weeks. They have Ohio State. Then we'll know everything we need to know about Indiana when that game comes around. All right, there you got it here, guys. Week 11 games. Don't forget to hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Drop us any questions you have about the games in the comments section as Jesse locked, loaded here, man. Not only college football, but a big NFL Week 10, college hoops underway, NBA. What do you got for the folks over at your page at WagerTalk?
I didn't even realize it till I woke up this morning and started looking at my records. But I closed out the college basketball season on a heck of a run, and I won the first college basketball play of this season. So we're testing a perfect 9-0 college basketball run with a 3-pack of NBA and college hoops plays tonight, and that's available on my page. I haven't locked and loaded my college card yet. I'm waiting on injury reports, but I did sweep the board with college football last week, and man, I need to get back on track and finish the season strong to salvage my reputation. That's for sure.
Oh, got to get it done. Expecting it to go strong over at WagerTalk.com. Bryan Leonard. If it ain't the NHL, it's college hoops, which, of course, we'll have the college basketball show back next week. Looking forward to diving back into there. But in the meantime, college hoops, NFL, NHL, what do you got for us there, Brian, at your page?
Yeah, we got a 5% in hockey a couple days ago. Nice winner for us. We've gotten off to a decent start in college basketball. Last year, number 3 in net profit on the season in college basketball. I do have up 5 plays today, and I've got them all for only $19. So if you want to get into the season and not spend a lot of money, this is the way to do it. I've proven I can win in college basketball, and I really like today's card. I also have an NBA play up. NBA's got off to a nice start for us, so I can't complain about anything right now. I only have 2 plays going in Saturday college football as of right now. We've done very well in the weekday games. I wanted Iowa tonight, but I wanted them at 4. Now we're looking up to close to 7. I think they were about to hit 7 somewhere. That number, I'd have to go UCLA and catching 7 at home. And you mentioned, the team's traveling. That's a long way for Iowa to go. And that's worked out pretty well for those home teams so far this year.
Yeah, that's a big steam move there on Iowa here for tonight. And Teddy, anything on the card here tonight in college football, or are you locked and loaded for the weekend?
I have no college football on the card tonight. We do have NBA on the card for the clients, a pair of winners locked and loaded for tonight. We've got a card set up for tomorrow in college football. We have a 5% big ticket in the NFL for Sunday. Woo. And I'm still adding additional plays to tomorrow's college football card. I think there's one more that I'm about to add after the show. So check out the page, wg.buzz/TC, and get on board.
There you go. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Hit that thumbs up. We certainly appreciate it. And again, any questions you guys might have, drop them in the comment section here. We'll be monitoring it right up until kickoff. We'll get you all the answers that you need. Best way to approach this, however, is head over to WagerTalk.com. Visit Jesse Schule. Visit Bryan Leonard. And, of course, Teddy Covers. Locked and loaded here, guys. Partner up with them this weekend. Now's the time of year. I mean, there's something for everybody this time of year. No excuses. Appreciate the fellas. Don't forget, next week, college basketball show tips off. The NBA tip-off show, just about an hour and a half, 3:30 Eastern time, will be live here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Make sure you come back and join us for that. In the meantime, best of luck with the plays this weekend, guys. We will see you again next week for week 12 of the college football kickoff show. Good luck. We'll see you again soon.